All right, so my next couple of videos are going to be for all of the beginner photographers or all of the photographers who, constantly ask me these questions that I don't want to answer because I don't like giving out advice about photography based on my needs or, the type of photography that I do. But I get bombarded with these questions all the time. And so the next couple of videos are just going to be answering those questions. And if you are a seasoned photographer, you know what type of questions those is. What lens are you using? What lens should I buy? What lens should I do if I do this? And so this video is going to be one of those type of videos. So if you are a seasoned photographer and you're not looking for this type of advice, go ahead and skip this video. I think if you go out and buy these 3 lenses or these 3 focal lengths, you'll be able to do any type of photography that you set out to do. Let's get into the video. Oh, if you stay to the end, I'll show you how with these 3 focal lengths, shooting on Sony cameras, you've essentially bought yourself a 20 to 200 millimeter. You'll cover, 20 to 200 millimeters with just these 3 lenses. So stay to the end of the video. I'll show you how to do that. Okay, lens number 1, you need a good wide angle lens. The 20 millimeter Sony 20 millimeter f1.8 is going to allow you to have that wide angle lens that you need. Now, I am not a super wide angle photographer. In fact, I just rented the 12 to 24 and I realized that some of those, anything wider than 20 is just too wide for me. Makes me uncomfortable. This 20 millimeter will get you some really great photos that are wide. And so I've photographed the Golden Gate Bridge with this. I photographed the Bay Bridge with this. I photographed some really good landscape photos here in Chicago with this lens. So it's a really great lens. I like it because it's 1.8. It's all the light that you need. A lot of times, if you guys have been watching this channel for a long time, you know that I like to go out and shoot night photography. And so this lens gives you all the light that you need, especially with vlogs. I vlogged with this lens also. This is actually my #1 vlogging lens. And so the 20 millimeter is a really great wide angle lens that's going to be able to satisfy, 90% of your wide angle needs. Now, as far as vlogging goes, it's not as good as a 16 millimeter if you're one of those people who likes to really show off your background. But the 20 millimeter for vlogging for me shows off enough. It gives me, the frame that I want. And so 20 millimeter for wide angle. Now, if you want to get into portrait photography, right? There's no better lens. You'll hear people talk about this a lot. The 50 millimeter. One of the reasons that I love the 50 millimeter, and you'll hear people argue about this, whether it's a 35 or a 45 or a 55, it's the most natural way that our eyes see. And I think that the 50 millimeter will give you the best kind of normal view of things. I've gotten really into street photography, and one of the things that I like about the 50 millimeter is that when I am looking at something, when I'm looking at a scene, when I pull the camera up to my eye to shoot with the 50 millimeter, it looks exactly like that. With the 20 millimeter or something wider, it looks really distorted sometimes, and it looks like you're further away from it, and so then you have to readjust or whatever. You don't get that feeling with the 50 millimeter. What you're looking at is what you see through the viewfinder, and I just feel like it's really natural. It's really the way that I see the world when I look through the viewfinder. This just happens to be the G Master 1.2. And the thing that I love about this is that it is 1.2. It really gives that beautiful kind of bokeh when I'm shooting portraits. I'm a portrait photographer first. You really get that creamy bokeh in the background, especially at 1.2. A lot of people will tell you that you can't really tell the difference between 1.4 and 1.8 or whatever. Fine, I'm not going to argue with those people. For the photography that I make, the 1.2 is amazing. All right, so Editor Jamil here again. I'm sure that you guys could hear the distortion creeping up into the video. I don't know why that was happening. nothing's changed in my setup, so I guess I'll have to do like a tear down and rebuild to figure out why that was happening. But anyway, what I was saying is, as I've said in other videos, as far as this 50mm 1.2 goes, like I like to go out and shoot night photography, and just having this amount of light, this 1.2 just allows a ton of light to get in. I'm never wishing I had more light, and so that's why I use this lens. And then as far as video goes, it's a beautiful lens for B-roll, especially in situations where you are, shooting some type of event, or if you are shooting some type of, like a wedding or something. It's a really good lens for shooting just that slow motion, like B-roll of like guests arriving, the father-daughter dance, all that kind of stuff. It's a beautiful lens for that type of B-roll. And so that's why I like the 50mm lens. One thing that I did want to do is I wanted to kind of mention sort of budget options in this video for all of these lenses. So for the 20mm, Amaran makes a really, really budget lens. I think it's something like $250. Don't quote me on that, but I know that it's really budget. But also Sigma makes one, but I think that one is really close in price to the Sony one. So I don't know if that's really a budget lens. But as far as the 50mm goes, the Sony 50mm 2.5G lens is a really dope little lens. It's compact. It is 2.5, so you don't really get, the low light, capabilities that I was speaking of. You don't really get that kind of bokeh, that I was talking about before. But I actually like that as Sony's second best 50mm at this point. The 55 Zeiss lens is really old. And the 51.8 is just a trash lens. You guys have heard me talk about that before, so don't buy that. So that's the one that I would recommend. Also, as the distortion kept going, I started to talk about the 85. The 85 is the third lens that I would include in this trio of lenses. It's the portrait lens. It's the lens that's gonna give you amazing portraits. If you've ever looked at a portrait and just thought like, wow, I wonder, you've seen, portrait photos of 85, really gives you that separation, really gives you that 3D pop. Even at 2.8, this lens is just amazing. The lens that I have is the 85mm G Master 1.4. This lens has been my bread and butter. I have loved this lens for a long time. Now, Sony has come out with a G Master version 2. Sigma makes a really good version of it, but if you're looking for a budget version of it, go ahead and look at the Rokinon 85. It's okay. I think Rokinon has a couple of like focusing issues that I'm not really prepared to kind of deal with in my photography career. But as a beginner, if you're looking for something that's really going to not break the bank, the Rokinon is a really good lens for the price. The 85mm, people think that it's a portrait lens, and it is. If you want to take some stunning portraits, but even as a landscape kind of lens, as a street photography lens, it's just a beautiful lens, and the images that you're able to get, I think, are kind of what's the word that I'm looking for? They are kind of unique, and it makes for conversation. People want to know how you made that photo, right? When you think about the kind of images that you can take with a 20mm or a 35mm, whether that's street photography or landscape or whatever, and then you shoot that from an 85mm viewpoint. I think, if you haven't done it, go out and try it, especially street photography. Street photography just looks beautiful at 85. Now, some old heads or some purists or some gatekeepers might tell you that, 85mm isn't really street photography. But man, let me tell you, when you get out and you do it and you make those images and you see what they look like, man, they're beautiful. So those are the three lenses. I think with a 20 millimeter, a 50 millimeter, and an 85 millimeter, you will be able to shoot any type of photography that you're looking to shoot. And as far as video goes, I've shot some weddings, I've shot some events. I've never kind of needed anything else because these three lenses have been enough, especially with weddings, for those detail shots, for that B-roll, for the bride coming down the aisle. These lenses have been really enough. For speeches, when you want to be able to shoot from a distance, not interrupt, be a fly on the wall, the 85 is beautiful. The 50 millimeter, man, all of those slow motion B-roll shots that you need to get, the 50 millimeter can't be beat. 20 millimeters when you're just getting like those establishing shots, these three lenses are going to get you all of the shots that you need to be able to get. So if you guys remember, before I say that, if you guys appreciate this video, you like what you're seeing, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and then let me know, any other questions or anything else that you guys might like to see. So before I end this, I told you guys that there's a way that you can get from 20 to 200 millimeters with just these three lenses. And as a beginner photographer, you might still be shooting in not APS-C mode, in JPEG, and that's fine. It's fine to shoot in JPEG. There are a lot of people out there who might say that you need to be shooting in RAW or you need to be shooting, in manual and all of that. Don't listen to those people. Shoot the way that you want to shoot. Make it as easy as possible for yourself to be able to grow into this thing, to love it, to learn. And so if you're still shooting in JPEG, great. So here's how you can, if you're a Sony shooter, I think that's another thing that I have to say, because I don't know if this is something that translates over to, Canon or Nikon, but on Sony cameras, you can shoot in APS-C mode, which essentially turns this 20 millimeter from a 20 millimeter to a 30 millimeter. And you can do it, with little to no degradation in the photo quality. But also with Sony cameras, you can shoot in something called clear image zoom, which allows you to zoom another 1.5 millimeters. And so if you're at 30 millimeters in APS-C mode, if you enter to, clear image zoom, that will turn this 20 millimeter all the way up to a 45 millimeter. So that 20 becomes a 30 and then up to a 45 millimeter, which gets you to a 50, right? And so if you go into APS-C mode with a 50 millimeter, that 1.5 times crop gets you to 75 millimeters. And then if you go into clear image zoom, that gets you to 105 millimeters. So that's the focal length. And then with that 85, right, that's somewhere in the middle, with APS-C mode, you get from 85 millimeters to about 127, 125. And then when you go into APS-C mode, that takes this 85 up to 191 millimeters. So that essentially gives you a 20 millimeter to 200 millimeters with just those three lenses. And I think that with these three lenses, that allows you to take all of the, be able to do anything that you need to do in photography and video. So, I don't know, try it out. Let me know. If you don't have these lenses, and you're thinking about, what lenses should I buy? If you're not someone who is leaning towards zooms, again, I don't shoot zooms. These are my bread and butters. I think that these three lenses should be able to do that for you. Let me know that in the comments what you guys think. I'm sure there's some seasoned vets who stayed around to be able to tell me that I'm wrong. Hey, tell me that I'm wrong down in the comments. And then let me know what lenses you guys think that I should be talking about in this discussion. I'll see you guys in the next time, in the next video. Peace.